So I am going to get us started here this afternoon. First of all, good afternoon to everyone, and good evening to those of us joining from Nepal, Bangladesh, and India. I'm Susan Ostermann, Professor of Global Affairs and Political Science here at Notre Dame, and current convener of the Lu Institute's South Asia Group. I'm delighted to introduce the panel we have for you today, the second of two panels on the Gen Z movement in Nepal. In September, we discussed the recent protests and the future, which we hoped would include elections in March. With those elections complete, we bring you a second panel examining electoral results and looking once more to the future. We have four excellent panelists for you today, all Gen Z or very close, and all from Nepal. Kicking us off, we have Suraj Parajuli, who is a Master of Global Affairs student here at the University of Notre Dame. His work focuses on the intersection of public health, community engagement, and public accountability. Prior to his MGA, he earned a bachelor's degree in healthcare management and worked in public health research and public advocacy in Nepal. He is currently engaged in research on public health, democracy, and public goods provision in Nepal. His interests center on advancing inclusive and sustainable governance systems that better align policy with the needs of marginalized communities. Suraj will provide some background on the protests, intervening developments, and the elections themselves. Afterward, we will turn to Monisha Choudhary, who is a member of the Gen Z Movement Alliance and played a really key role in drafting, negotiating, and concluding the agreement between the government of Nepal and Gen Z representatives. They are also a law graduate and socio-legal researcher working to further social justice in Nepal. Next up will be Dipin Subedi, who works at the Center for Social Change in Nepal. He is a researcher and advocate working on governance and public policy, with particular engagement in environmental challenges, including climate change and environmental peace building, as well as issues of trade, migration, foreign policy, and politics. He holds a master's degree in political science from the University of Southern Mississippi. Next, and not least, probably last, though maybe not, we will have Salina Kafle, who is a human rights lawyer from Nepal specializing in transitional justice, accountability, and governance. She has worked extensively on issues of serious human rights violations in Nepal and has closely followed the country's transitional justice process and its intersection with broader democratic developments. Salina holds an LL.M. from the University of Notre Dame and has worked at both national and international levels with a range of organizations. She was most recently a fellow at UN Women Headquarters in New York, contributing to work on gender equality and justice in transitional contexts. Currently based in Nepal, she works as an independent consultant with NGOs and UN agencies. Finally, if she manages to join us, and she wasn't sure that she would earlier, but we can hope, we will have Ranju Darshana, who joined us in September as head of the Bipakshil Sacha Party and is now a member of parliament with the Rashtriya Swatantra Party. Before we get started, I'd like to just thank the Lu Institute for putting this event together and the Democracy Initiative at Notre Dame for supporting research on this topic. Without further ado, Suraj.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Ostermann, for the nice introduction and for this opportunity. Hello and namaste, everyone. I am going to briefly talk about the series of events that led the Gen Z movement and where the Nepal stands today. First of all, I would like to emphasize that the fast-moving Gen Z movement was not sudden event. It was rooted in the years of frustration over the corruption, inequality, elite privileges, politicization of the state institution, and the weak governance. However, two immediate triggers brought these tensions to the surface. First, a viral campaign that exposed the lavish lifestyle of the political elites and their families, also known as the Nepo baby trend on TikTok, that showed the stark gap between the leaders and the ordinary Nepalese citizen. So, second, the government immediate decision to ban the 26 social media platforms unless they registered with the state that really intensified the public anger. These sparked the deeper grievances, particularly with the coalition government at that time, formed by the two major political parties, CP and UML and Nepali Congress, despite of their different political ideologies. So many felt that the government failed to deliver the good governance. Public perception of the corruption in the country was very high. That time, 34 out of the 100-point scale in the global corruption barometer was recorded. So these long-standing grievances, combined with the immediate triggers, ultimately pushed the Gen Z to launch the protest on September 8th. Let me talk about the September 8 and September 9, two big days in recent Nepal's political history. As protesters moved towards the parliament on the September 8, state used the brutal force. Police opened the fire and killed 19 innocent students with the school uniforms. So this tragic event intensified the public outrage, which then escalated into the widespread destruction on the September 9. A total of 76 fatalities were ultimately recorded, and many of them were the student and the youth. So the protests were highly decentralized and organized via the digital platform like the Discord and the local networks. So though from the outside it seemed centered in the Kathmandu, but there was a real participation from all across the country. So even we look at the demographics of the protesters from the Kathmandu, we can see that the people who belongs to the across the country from the western Darchula to the eastern Java. So, although the movement is often described as a leaderless and decentralized, figures such as Sudan Gurun and the members of some civil society group, Hami Nepal emerged as more visible, and especially after the escalation of the violence, and the government was toppled in a rapid 36 hours revolution. So after the September 8 and September 9 crisis, many viewed the Nepal army as a political player often. So, but it was actually playing a crucial role in managing the crisis immediate after the outrage and during the formation of the interim government. So the approach taken by the military of Nepal army may have seemed suspicious, but it was the best possible approach given the circumstances at that time, I would say. So, following the period of unrest, and then Nepal entered the rapid political transition. The Susila Karki, former Chief Justice, also known for her anti-corruption ruling, was appointed as a Prime Minister on September 12, and becomes the Nepal's first female Prime Minister. Her selection was endorsed by the groups associated with the Gen Z movement through the Discord-based voting. So, immediate priorities of the Karki-led interim government include the restoring order, investigating the movement, and preparing for the election in the early March. So, her cabinet included the reform-oriented bureaucrat, technocrat, and some experts. So many saw this team as a signal of the commitment towards the credibility, reform, and the clean governance. So the Karki-led government might not be the perfect at that immediate time, but it was the best available at the time, I would say. So the interim government didn't engage in any kind of controversial activities during their tenure, and they did really a commendable job building the multi-party consensus for the election. It was really difficult, and it was really important to bring the constitution on the track. So while it could not resolve the deeper governance issue raised by the Gen Z, in the 6 month, the Ontario government played a key role in managing the transition. So amid the uncertainty and dissolved parliament, so it helped to re-establish the constitutional process and maintain the order during that critical vacuum period. So the interim government announced the election for March 5, which were successfully held. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party, a relatively new political force that had won the 21 seat in the 2022 election, emerged as a dominant winner with a near two-third majority. So its rise was also strengthened through the unification with the other alternative political forces and with the former Kathmandu mayor, Balendra Saha, who was even proposed as a prime ministerial candidate for the election from the Rashtriya Swatantra Party. So, for the first time in Nepal, so major political parties also declared the prime ministerial candidate ahead of the election, and many young leaders entered in the mainstream politics. So the result were really striking, as long dominant parties that has ruled the Nepal over the 3 decades suffered from the major loss. For instance, Balendra Saha defeated the then Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli by more than the threefold margin. The result really reflects the strong public grievances with established political parties. So now the new government has been formed, and under the Balendra Saha, Prime Minister Balendra Saha, government is pushing the aggressive governance and the anti-corruption measures, anti-corruption reforms. However, I would say core agendas of the Gen Z movement are yet to resolve. So, as a leaderless and a decentralized movement, I would say Gen Z voices are still active, and the Gen Z movement is still active in the street, and we are still to see what happens the next. So, we are really looking forward what happens in the next in Nepal. Yeah, I would like to stop with that.
Excellent. Thank you, Suraj. We're going to now turn to Monisha, and we will then turn to Dipin, then Salina, and then Suraj. You will get the sort of last word at the end. Take it away, Monisha.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Susan and Suraj. Um, I think something that's very important for us to consider while we talk about Nepal's movement is marginalization. And I say this in light of Nepal's political history, given that we had a huge revolution in the 1990s that was launched, won at the expense on the backs of indigenous communities, Madesi communities, people from Dalit communities, Muslim folks. The party that led that revolution against economic practices that they did not like, against hegemonic practices that they did not like. All of this was launched at the back of these people. And it was for the promise of a future that was very economically, socially prosperous, a future that is very equal, egalitarian for everyone. And this is, I think, the dream that most Nepali people have sort of held on to. There was so much casualty in the process, but we were sort of happy, I think, collectively that we were led into democracy. But the same parties, the same leaders that led us into democracy then started playing musical chair with the government. And you would constantly see the same people in power. And I think people were very, very, very fed up with what was happening. And Suraj has already elaborated on this quite a bit. But then um, maybe understanding how the movement really highlighted a lot of structural issues could help us understand why this was a very novel movement in itself. In the past few years, we've seen that young people have been migrating the country at such an extraordinary rate for better opportunities, better pay, education, employment, everything. I think young people mostly, have been very disconnected with the country. And um, right before the movement happened on September 8th, the trend that was very popular, as they've already said, was actually digging up profiles of the children of political leaders, even political leaders, and really showing the discrepancy between young Nepali people who go to the Gulf region to work and then come back in coffins, and then children of political leaders who enjoy luxury brands, go to vacations in the same country. That is when the social media ban happened, and the popular reason then was that it happened because all of these major platforms, social media platforms, Meta, TikTok, they refused to register with the government. But I think we all know that it happened because they did not like the trend that was going on. Because the push for registration has been happening for quite a while, and people were really angry. They really did not like what was happening. And I think the social media ban really acted as a catalyst amongst all of this. Now, come September 8th, there's quite a lot of speculations that happen within the country still about why it happened, who was there, who came there. But I think as a truly leaderless movement, yes, people emerged after the movement as leaders, as caretakers of the movement, as people who would define what the movement wanted. On September 8th, every young person, every old person who was there with a shared belief that we did not like what was happening. And the common band that sort of united us all together was the fight against corruption. And that was the banner that was upheld, which was Youths Against Corruption. That is the group that initially organized this. I think you can still find a Discord link to the group. There's still a few calls that happen, very loosely connected group. And once suppression happened on the first day and a lot of young people were killed, on the second day, I think it was purely fueled by rage. Even that was not organized. It was a lot of parents that I know going to the streets and ready to avenge, literally, political leaders who were ready to remain in power at the expense of the future of their country. Um, and on the second day, I think you'll be able to see quite a few clips of people burning malls, hotels, lynching police officers. And this is quite a jarring scene, I think, in the sense that, yes, violence makes us all very uncomfortable, but then there's quite a lot of meaning to the violence that happened. Because if you're robbing, breaking down superstores and malls and maybe like taking a teddy bear out of there, a young person was stealing a teddy bear from there. There were people who were stealing electronic appliances from there. Um, we again saw a lot of structural issues that were really, really coming to the surface. But then after the second day, I think we learned how difficult it was to now take care of the consequences of the second day. We burnt a lot of things down. We burnt the parliament down. We burnt the Supreme Court of the country down, and effectively all members of government resigned. Um, and after that, it was upon us, undefined mass of people, to really lead the country forward. That is when a lot of elite capture, a lot of, in a very federalized, small federalized country, a lot of capital-centered voices started becoming very loud. And then people like myself, people like popular figures that you would maybe know, they started rising to power. And then we had sort of the duty to collectively decide who would be our PM on Discord. Uh, just a lot of chaos after that. But I think the March elections really, really closed the movement very meaningfully in some sense. But yeah, I think once Sushila Karki was in place, even from September 9 to her appointment in a matter of days, we really saw that we were very unequipped to actually vocalize or even, lay down in very specific terms exactly what we wanted from the government. We really tried to organize, not just myself, there were a lot of groups that were trying to organize and come up with demands that we should put forth from the interim government, because we knew that a people's government was being formed. In the process, my group, initially not the Gen Z Movement Alliance, we started looking at online demands from various groups that people were really putting up on Facebook posts and Instagram posts. And then we compiled an agreement, and a huge part of that was transitional justice, which we have not seen yet. Again, as I mentioned, there's 2 police officers who were lynched in the process, and we really believe that post the Gen Z movement, a lot of criminalization has happened. We wanted there to be some form of mediation, reconciliation between law enforcement agencies, previous political parties, and martyrs, families, injured individuals of the movement. But yeah, we're yet to see that. One good thing is, because this government has embraced the Gen Z movement quite openly, we look forward to actualizing the promise of transitional justice of the 1990s, uh, potentially addressing what happened in September, and really, really trying to address the structural inequalities that lead the Nepalese people to do one of these movements every 10 years, I think. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Dipin.
Thank you, Monisha. I don't know how I'm going to follow that, but I'll try. So let's begin with my take on the elections. Are you guys listening? All right. So the election was conducted, of course, by an interim government, and I believe at this time we had our Abraham Lincoln's either habeas corpus or the Union moment. So we took recourse to extra constitutional measures, and I think this was, to borrow Suraj's word, it was the best approach at the time. I was in Nepal at this time, and I saw huge people's participation in the election, in politics in general, and the role of social media to to accentuate this participation, disproportional participation. They took interest in politics, and even when I went around many districts in Nepal, the social media has played such a role, so much so that in some places, people were ready to suspend their judgment, their reasoning to vote for change, no matter what party came or what party was deposed. So this was an amazing observation on my part. Plus, the youth was engaged more than ever. They engaged through voting. They engaged through political campaigns, and because I think most reform programs in the manifestos included youths and jobs, creation of jobs, and good governance, anti-corruption. I think that pandered to the youth population. Also, this election, I think the expectations of the common people were not the election of a good lawmaker. I think they had a twofold reason to vote. One was to either avenge themselves of whatever the injuries done to them by the older parties, or they wanted to just live a secure and content life away from the anarchy. I think that's what the twofold approach they took towards election. Also, this election saw a shift in representation, so that the gray eminences were kicked out in this election, and many young people, I think 52 is the oldest age in the assembly, and this election brought remarkable results in the form of youth engagement, both inside and outside the parliament. So this was the summary of what I observed during the election. Now, what comes next is the real problem, I believe. I think now the conquest being done, I think the task of administration looks into the face of lawmakers. Also, there's a risk to civic engagement. I went to the fields in Nepal, and people were worried about venting their animus on perhaps nobody, because the RSP doesn't have any organizations at the local levels, and they were nobody vents their problems to the losing parties. So there is a risk of civic engagement after the elections. I think from the government side, I think reordering and reforms should be the priority of the government. Extraordinary steps, if they have to be taken, I think should be taken. They have two-thirds majority, almost two-thirds majority. They can change the laws that can be suited to provide good delivery results. I think they should do that. I think because the executive right now is they seem less ambiguous in their resolutions, and they make quick decisions. So I think it's even easier for them to do so. But I think they should not set a bad precedent. They should not exploit this for too long. And they also have to be able to see inconveniences of their decisions from far away. Right now, our home minister is embroiled in, I don't know what, I think, whatever he's embroiled in. I think you should be able to look at least. I think it was so I read Premier of China Zhou Enlai. When he talked about the Kuomintang's Chiang Kai-shek, he said, "This man does not look even further than 6 months. He cannot be a statesman." So I think at least 3 years or 5 years they have to set like a rebound period. Anything can happen at that in that time period. So I should look further than that. I think that is what the government should do. Also, they have the task of sweeping the defeated parties. I think they should, enough has been done to humiliate them, but they should temporize with the old parties instead of striking them. I think play diplomatically, so they wouldn't come back. We wouldn't want them to come back and grow stronger. So I think they should deal diplomatically with the old parties. And I think finally the government should be the main focus of the government should be national unity. Also, the voters have given huge amounts of votes to the RSP. I think the voters want to say that we are beyond identity politics now. Identity-based agendas are not what we want. We want, I don't know, technocratic reforms. So I think they have to take care of the national unity. Only if there is a national unity, I think only then they can provide effective reforms and achieve good results. Now, the third part, what I am watching for. So I'm watching for, of course, reforms but I think reforms, it needs some sort of isolation, which is not so feasible right now, given globalization, and we need knowledge transfers, technology transfers. But I think they can isolate themselves in one aspect, which is military. I think the Nepalese, I don't know if the politicians can be persuasive enough to say, to the military people that you should stay away. But I think this is the course that should be taken, perhaps for a couple of years. But I think military intervention is the last thing we want. I'm watching for that to happen, for us to remain isolated from superpowers of the world. Also, I think we are a small nation and we have federal structures. We have 7 provinces. I think for the time being, I think I'm watching for the government to make decisions that makes the center a little bit. It had become an object of disdain because of the old party politics. But I think they should have a good grip. The central government should have a good grip on the political power and decentralization for at least 2 more years. So they could be, they can regulate industries and commerce, because industrial cunning, they develop faster than the laws of the state. So I think regulations are needed, and I've been to many in the many industries in the Tarai region which are filthy. The conditions around industries are very, very filthy. I don't know how they live around there. So I think the central government can impose regulations on burgeoning industries and commerce, which I think RSP is also has also explicitly stated in their manifesto of their positive inclination towards the commercial agencies and industries. The rest, I think the government should. I'm watching for the government to bring good agriculture policies and land policies. I hope they do Japan like no import substitution for the immediate needs products like rice and stuff. I think we should be sovereign in those concerns. Plus, the last thing I want the government to do is have some sort of historical consciousness. Do not repeat the same mistakes that the old regimes have repeated. We have trade embargoes every time. You can't with India, and you can't find a solution. We suffer from the same problem all the time. I think they should, like I said, be prudent enough and try to not repeat the historical mistakes. And now I think I'm worrying too much. I'm not being pessimistic. I'm just saying the truth. I think now I'm worried about reordering or counter-revolution. This might be from the outside or an implosion because you know, a little bit of, I think they have been a little bit despotic in terms of selecting candidates, and it needs a straw to break the camel's back. I think it's going to be either explosion, implosion. I can see that in the future. I think they should I think the RSP should follow through the 100 pledges they have given in the manifesto. They should complete and they should provide solutions to the 100 problems they have pointed out. And I am also worried about the faith and respect that we had in our institutions. I think it's up to RSP to revive those faith in our institutions. And last thing I'm excited about, one thing I'm excited about is the end of corruption. I think they should end this web of corruption that has been spun by from the old days of oligarchies and the multi-party democracies. I think they should be able to crack down upon corruption. I think that is one thing I'm excited about. Lastly, but not the least, I came to Bangladesh, and because this is also a recently revolutionized country, I have collected some newspapers that I found in the lobby, and I think these things also the government should stay away from, which is a superpower. It seems or will come knocking at the doors and say, let's do an energy deal during this tumultuous time. I think they should stay away from it. Also, the Bangladesh government gave 60 milestones, like we did 100 pledges, like the RSP did 100 pledges. So during this time period, the people in the pretext of we do the 100 pledges, they might secretly do something behind. So I think they should look after this devious tricks by some superpowers. I'm not going to say who. So energy focused urban development. You can see because of the war, it's been I think they should look that they have some alternatives and not just fully oil based urban development. And also they should look at, Tariq Rahman from Bangladesh is also trying to act a little despotic in terms of appointment of for instance, women representatives. So I think they should stop doing that. They should be transparent. And the government has made laws in Bangladesh, but they have not been translated into actions. So I think the government also should to avoid any criticism, they should be able to deliver the reforms they've promised. Also, lastly, I think,
Okay. Wrap up.
yes,
Sorry to interrupt.
I think there's also a responsibility of the intellectuals. I think there's no intellectuals. There are no intellectuals with fortitude enough, to stand up and say that this is wrong. I think if that sort of a widely known intellectual does that, I think that's also going to be a great act as a great opposition to the government. I end my case finally.
Thank you so much, Dipin. Salina, take it away.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks to Notre Dame. Thanks, Susan. Last year I was graduating around this time, and it's so great to be with all of you again in 2026. Thanks to Monisha, Suraj, Dipin, everybody. I think many things have come forward, but maybe I'd like to also go in Dipin's order to say my observation about the election. And I would also like maybe play a teacher and say some good aspects about the current government and then go on to the challenges. It, of course, was a very surprising result in the election. surprising in the sense that there was kind of a speculation that Rashtriya Swatantra Party (RSP) would win, but the landslide victory it got was surprise to the leaders from the party as well. So I think it's quite a good opportunity for the political party. And I think it's too early already to evaluate their work, but then as they say, like morning shows the day, there are some actions by the government which are being praised around as some of the good aspects or good nature. And I'm not a diplomatic expert or so, but these are more of news that are circulating around and things that I've been hearing on TV. And I go on the other challenges that I feel the government should work towards. The good aspects is that there already is efficiency in the functioning of the ministries or or government offices in Nepal, which really lacked in the past, is what I've been hearing. And I don't know, there's no field research to it, but from what I have heard so far, that one of the areas of the RSP or one of the promises was to deliver good services to the people. And I see that that's already happening in Single Darbar, which is the executive offices, which premises the executive offices. So it seems like there are some of the good aspects towards it. The government also recently unveiled a national commitment draft, and it has asked for feedback with the political parties. Now, this draft apparently is also a collection of the uh, promises in the manifestos of other political parties. So to say that, I think it's a good sign for the RSP already to encapsulate what other political parties also had promised in the past and to take it more of a national agenda and put it forward for the discussion. So I think that's a good part that the government is going forward. The Prime Minister Barendra Saha has also been holding consultations with various provincial ministers, which I think we don't know. Like he's a person who speaks very less, so we don't know how he's going to strategize this further. But at least for now, it seems like he is trying to give his ears more. This might seem very simple, but something that has changed in the current working of the government is that previously, whenever prime ministers took their position, they used to hold the meetings from their own residence, Balwatar, which is one part of the Kathmandu, and not from Singha Darbar, which is actually their office. And this has now changed. Now, Balendra Saha conducts his meeting in the office. He takes it as an office, reaches there on time, and then goes out on time. I've heard from my friends who work in the ministry that even if you're 1 minute late to the office, the fingerprint or the your attendance would get cancelled during the for the day. So I don't know, like I also feel like this is too much of stick and less of a carrot for the workers of the government. But let's see how it goes. But for now, I think it's trying to revamp on how it used to conduct its activities. Also to say that when Barendra Saha, the Prime Minister, met diplomatic community, it didn't meet them personally, which was a very used practice in the past. But the ministry conducted a overall meeting with all of the diplomatic agencies, which I think is a good aspect. Now, coming to the challenges, I think I also agree with Dipin on certain points that there might be implosions inside the party, and there already are many things inside the party. There are many um, intellectual people, but there might be like tug of war, there might be power play and all that. But I wear on my optimistic hat and say that there are certain challenges that if the government wants to work towards in a unified manner, should work towards. And I think I'd start somewhat similar to what we've been talking about in the past. First, I think institutional strengthening. And when I say this, I think I'd focus more on police, Nepal police or armed police force or security forces in general, because we all know that this government somewhat came from Gen Z protest, as we've been discussing, and there was excessive use of force. And this is not the first time that the Nepal police has used excessive force. It had happened in the past too. It had happened during 1996 to 2006 internal armed conflict where thousands of people were there, and it also happened during Madhes movement after 2006. So it's not the first time that this happened. This happened in Kathmandu in that big scale. That might be new, but in Tarai, it was kind of a daily scenario during the Madhes movement as well. So, and I was a part of one of the researches that was conducted by my previous university. previous college, Kathmandu School of Law, with Sydney University, which also showed that there were so many root causes of these excessive use of force inside the police system. Like one police had to run out in controlling riot, and then the next minute she had to sit on gender counseling office inside the office. There was no specialization of the work inside the police force, lack of police forces. I'm not trying to defend police. What I'm saying is that there are problems inside. There's lack of training. There's lack, and in the name of human rights training, they're made to fill up some forms or do some random, like very impractical tests. So there are many problems there. So I think one of the focuses of the government should be on institutional strengthening, and I would say to start with security forces. The other one would be corruption, as they've been saying, as the Nepo baby train gave birth to it. And recently, the prime minister and other ministers also revealed their property, which was quite a shock to many people to say that, oh, this is too much of money. But that's a very good practice to make their property public. But I think it should also follow with showing their tax records, showing the sources of these money, which is missing, and it has been already um, people have already started discussing about the sources and the taxes and other required evidences to show the validity of their property. The other thing I think is that they should be scared of this society, Nepali society as a whole, because because when I say this, because we either make someone hero or devil so fast. Like there's this big trend of heroism and devilism. Like now Balendra Shah is the hero of the country, and people do not hear anything bad about him. So you should look at the social media post, and he's in all praises. And it's scary that the society might consider as the same person devil soon, because KP Sharma Oli, there were chants around I love KP Sharma Oli some months ago, and it's the same society which is doing something else now. So I think it's very important. And I think the government also should be very resilient in terms of accepting criticisms. There was a recent arrest of a social media user because apparently he said something bad to the prime minister. He was released immediately or after some time. But just to say that I think the freedom of expression again was somewhat under the it was not respected fully. So I think the government should also have that resilience to accept criticisms and move forward. Like Dipin pointed out, there were some hasty decisions from our home minister trying to work outside jurisdiction and all that. So I think they have 5 years. So they should, I think, plan very carefully towards these 5 years. And as someone who's worked on transitional justice and past atrocities, I would say that the 100 action points that the government forwarded did not include uh, addressing the past abuses. And as we know that if past abuses are not addressed, it keeps on creating the same impunity cycle. So what happened in 1996 to 2006, we had Truth Commission, some transitional justice measures, and still there's not a single case that's prosecuted. There are many people who are still who have not got any benefits from the government. So as someone who's worked on it and who has seen its impact on the ground in the villages, I would say that that should also be one of the top agendas for the government to come, for the current government. So I think I'd end here and maybe answer questions if they come forward in the question answer round.
Thanks so much, Salina, and to all of our panelists. I'd like to open it up to the audience to questions. You're welcome to submit things via the Q&A function. But before I sort of collect those and offer them to the group, I wanted to briefly do a round with all of you and just get you to think about your green flags and your red flags in terms of going forward. So what's one thing that you'll see as, if this happens, I think we're on the right track. And what's one thing that if you see it, you'll think, oh, we've gone off the track, if that makes sense. Should we start with Suraj?
Yeah, sure. I think we have been always discussed as a previous day as well. So we have been seeing many positive signals from the current government. For instance, I definitely would like to emphasize the 100 points reform that government has proposed, and I would consider this as a very good green flag because it has included the digital governance, and it has also mentioned about the efficiency of the state institution. So that has been really positive things, and the way government is taking the consultation and uh, taking the information from the manifestos from the opposition parties. So that are really a good signal. Uh, that is really good signal to going forward. So the way government has taking the actions, and government has taken the immediate action, because current Prime Minister Barendra Shah is also knowing for his actions. So he's just known for his taking the immediate decisions and the actions. So that kind of decision are pretty well. But sometimes when taking the action, there is also comes about the state institution. So Nepal being a small country, and we still have to strengthen our institution. So while making the decision, we should really think about does our institution is well enough, capable enough to take those actions immediately. So I think those immediate decisions that also has to be aligned with the state institution. So if the government really make the pace with the state capacity and the decision they are making, that would be the really great thing. And yeah, talking about the red flag, so I am pretty hopeful. So, but pretty hopeful. But there comes around the in the conflict inside the party, because the big unification between the Balendra Shah and the Rashtriya Swatantra Party. So there has been some tension. We can hear from the news portal. So if that has been well managed, so it would be really great. But if those kind of tension inside the party really escalated, so that would really hamper the folks they are looking forward. Yeah, I would say that.
Thank you. Should we go next to Monisa?
Thank you. I spent quite a lot of time again contextualizing the movement earlier, so I'm going to take this to very quickly, I think, just sort of lay the foundation here in the sense that we've seen a largely communist, Marxist government in Nepal up until this point, but then people have been so disillusioned by ideology that we've given a huge people's political mandate to a party that literally has the independent in its name. It has no effective ideology, even up until now. It's been a while since they've assumed office, and we don't know if they have an ideology. And at this point, I think we've sort of um, come to a question where we have to even ask if ideology really matters. I don't. It's a very novel ground for Nepal. So I'll start with the red flags. I think the tendency, as Suraj has pointed out, to act very quickly, to act very promptly, and this isn't just Balin now. We're seeing this from our home minister. We're seeing this actually from all ministers. They're very social media savvy, they know how to work with news outlets. There's this weird fusion, welding together of citizen journalism, social media outlets, and news outlets and media houses. And yeah, but yes, a lot of very quick decisions. And if we look at Nepal's history, even the bureaucrats, the public service sector, it's very politicized. It has been very politicized. They have deep ties with the old guards, the parties that have been thrown out of power. So we assume that there would be some sort of tussle there, which is why I imagine that they've been doing a lot of executive orders, right? They want things to happen very quickly, which is why there's been a lot of executive decisions. And this could go well because we suspect that the bureaucrats, they won't let them work if they actually go by due process. But this also means that then they have this opportunity to circumvent the parliament altogether, and to maybe not focus on a lot of democratic, lawmaking processes where it actually takes time because you want people to engage with deep, bigger, larger macro questions. That is going to be a red flag for me if that happens, if this is a consistent trend where this huge majority party does not want to listen to even its own um, party members. I think another adjacent concern would, as Salina ji recently said, um, the empowerment of security agencies, but also some form of restructuring or even I don't know, a lot of research, a lot of work required there. The arrests that have been happening, while we see that this is to sort of end the cycle of impunity that has continued in the country, it is in some way empowering the police quite a bit. And yeah, again, a lot of very quick actions, and we don't necessarily know where power is going to consolidate at this point. Green flags, I've been listening to our Prime Minister's songs a bit to really gauge what they think about, huge issues. Because as has been said before, they don't talk a lot. There's not a lot of public appearances. We don't know exactly what he's thinking. And then there's a song that I think everyone here would really enjoy. It's called Am Nepali Bua, it's about the plights of a common Nepali father. And there's a lot of issues that are raised within the song. So my green flag is that the government, the prime minister remembers the songs that he wrote and sang, and that they work in accordance with that. Because I think recently, because of the assets disclosure, people have really started to feel some sort of disconnect with the government. And that's because there's so much wealth that unfortunately this government has revealed to own. And yeah, it's just gone on to reinforce that people who don't have money can't really come into politics. And I think, yeah, just remembering the roots, why they are in power, how they came to power, remembering the casualty, the loss that we had to go through for them to be here, and that translating into care in their actions, that would be a green flag.
Thank you so much. Dipin?
All right. I think I've got three concise observations this time. Three very brief points. First of all, I have a comment on Salina ji's observation that PM does not work from his residence and he works from the administrative center. Also, called Singadarbar. I talked to many people in Bangladesh today, and they say, our Prime Minister Tariq Rahman does all the stunts, and he doesn't want any security. He wants to make people feel like he's one of them, the common people. Stop doing that. Stop. We need reforms. We don't need presence. So that is what I think 8 out of 10 people told me. We don't want stunts. We want. I think that's how people think after time. I think after 3 months maybe. So the red flag I see is the administration, the admiration of Oli, the KPOD I love you chants were, I think, were paid for, but the admiration for Balendra Shah, I think they are really honest and from the bottom of people's heart. I think if he tries, if this is not reciprocated, I think he's going to pay the price, or his party is going to pay the price. I think that's the red flag for them. One green flag I see, I think, is I generally don't see any green green flags, but I think the green flag would be I don't know. I would recommend them to not make haste. Haste makes waste, as they say. All the tactics in the world, and you can still be a prey of the mad populace. So I think a green flag would be to act very prudently. I think that's all I have to say. Also, just as a small observation, Monisha ji told us that she listens to Balendra Shah's songs in order to figure out what he is thinking. I'm thankful that Mr. Trump speaks so much, because people would have to go back and see The Apprentice to think to figure what he thinks. I think Trump did a good job speaking too much. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Salina.
One green flag, mine is also not a green flag already, but something that would be a green flag would be walk the talk, like everyone said, that recently government apologized to Dalits, one of the marginalized communities in the country who were backwarded, uh, who were made backwarded. But I think the real challenge comes in putting that into place. We've already changed laws in the past, so it's deeper than laws. It's at the society level, it's at the psyche of the people. So I think the government also should start working towards it, and not just I would not call it a stunt this time, the apology, but maybe walk towards it. And one very actionable thing that the government can do is, like, since they are being questioned on the sources of the money and tax, just produce it. All of you who have produced the um, wealth and assets, just produce your sources and tax, and then people would be happy and relieved, and that's what they asked for, and that's why they voted. I just say this, and I still see the conducting of meeting through Single Darbar as a green flag, because I think that also bars maybe many intermediaries, many other business people or others who would actually bring in the corruption ideas or lure or all these things. So I think it'll keep a control, and I think it's more of also formal mechanisms on how things should work. So at this time, many of the balance size things I might consider stunt. This one I refuse to consider a stunt, actually. Thank you.
Excellent. So we'll do one more round, I think, and I'm going to meld some of the questions that we have online. And I guess I want to turn to the international dimension. So we have a question from Sean King, who asks about whether any of the US tech majors have said anything about Gen Z use of their platforms in Nepali politics. To my knowledge, they have been very quiet on this issue. But I wanted to think about that element just because I wanted to get you to think about um, not only the tech aspects of what happened, but also what you might say to Gen Z folk elsewhere who are seeing Nepal as an example at this point in the trajectory, and also what you're observing from your neighbors. So, for instance, from Bangladesh, we heard a little bit about that. So, your thoughts on the international dimensions of what's transpired? Should we start with Suraj? Do you have anything you want to say?
Okay. Yeah, I agree with Professor Osterman. So I think I have also not heard from the tech majors. So they have been quiet till the date. But as from the international perspective, so even I used to talk with the friends over here, and they also sometimes ask me questions. So did the Nepal learn from the Bangladesh? So it's really difficult to answer. So if Nepal learned from the Bangladesh and the other countries learn from the Nepal, so the movement is because the Gen Z movement has been widespread across the world. So and in some the flag that was used in the every kind of Gen Z protest. So uh, that shows that the Gen Z people, like the age group who are in the Generation G, so they have been quite active in the politics, and they have been quite raising the voice against the bad governance of their state. So that has been really transferred across the world, and that has been diffusing, I would say. But the context of the any nations that has been completely different on the country wise, like the Bangladesh has we saw the protest from the in the Bangladesh as well. So recently in Nepal's happened, and we saw the other countries as well. So it highly depends on the what the country is going through. So I would say, and yeah, and other people, and about the second question is was about the using the social media, right? So I would say social media platform has really made us easier for the to get connected within the state, and to get connected across the world as well, because we have been getting the lots of information. Like even I was reading some articles from the international outlet that this outlet that even the Nepal's inspired the Gen Z movement across the world, right? So social media has made us really enable us to get to the information around the world. But yeah, the social media has been a good platform. So, and that really facilitate your movement, that really facilitate your voices. So I would say responsible use of social media that can use for the good purposes as well. The social media, it doesn't mean that social media spark the Gen Z movement, that spark the violence, but I would say social media has created the space where every person can share their opinions, share their values, and that can also lead to the collective action.
Thank you. Monisha, do you have anything to add?
I'll start with the response of major platforms. There haven't been any. Just echoing what has been said. But what was very interesting was that, again, for a campaign, like for a movement that was organized, sustained through social media, the internet at large, post the movement, almost immediately, I think in a matter of months, about 300,000 videos were taken down from TikTok related to the movement. And my work primarily is in digital rights, which is why and this is interesting in the sense that there's quite a lot of government takedowns in Nepal, especially on TikTok, because it's easier, even though they're not registered, it's just easier for the government to request takedowns. And that's something that's happened. There was an agreement that was reached between the Election Commission and TikTok to combat disinformation during the election. Don't know how effective that was, but some efforts to collaborate there. I think there were talks about doing the same with Meta. I think this comes again because it comes from like a place of precaution. We saw what effect social media had on the movement, and then we saw really the effect of social media and algorithmic amplification, even the use of deep fakes. Quite a lot of AI was used in Nepalese elections this time. I think it's a huge gold mine for researchers if you're really trying to see the role of social media and how a government is run, put into power. Nepal can be an excellent case study. Not to say that the people really did not want change, but I think definitely social media really created some sort of an echo chamber for people who wanted a certain thing. This feedback loops, just quite a lot had happened um, up until March. Yeah, so platform accountability, huge need to really push for that. We really saw a regulatory gap in how we look at, online campaigns. We don't have proper regulations for campaign financing. I think this might be a huge point that we need to take up going forward, even in the local elections. Um, about the international momentum that we're seeing, I don't think it's purely because of Nepal, but then we did see this sort of relay effect, right? We learned from Indonesia, Bangladesh happened, there was Sri Lanka a while ago, then we saw this in Nepal, and this is probably has to do with um my theory is the nihilism and hopelessness that young people feel all over the world. There's just so much going on, right? There's climate change. You just planetary proportions. You can't do anything as an individual about it. Then there's this huge, disdain with all forms of oppressive governments. And we're seeing this everywhere. We're seeing some form of organizing happening all at once. And this, I feel like we're sort of coming to a point where we're really going to destruct everything that is not working for us. And this is probably because of a generational rift that is happening. I don't know, but then there has to be some sort of statistical indicator. My guess is that we're entering into another political era as a planet. A lot of young people who want very different things. And I think, again, AI, this endless sprint to some tech utopia that we don't know where it's going, how it's coming forth, what it is offering. All we can see is substitution of all, labor that exists, that seems to be the end goal, endlessly compliant labor force. Just a lot of really, really overtly bad things happening everywhere. And I think Nepal, in that sense, might be a lesson for anyone who wants to organize that. While yes, the simultaneous movement, spontaneous movement led to the overthrow of a huge, huge political regime. Um, I think it is very, 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 very important to pre-plan, have structures, have leadership as we organize, and even have very specific lists of demands and very specific ways in which we want to achieve them. Yeah, I think in the past few years, we've seen that there's been a severe depoliticization of civil society in Nepal, and there's a lot of reasons to get into that, if we get into that. But just being very politically aware, trying to organize across margins, trying to really center the people who are suffering the most because of mainstream narratives, even governments, that has to be done. I think one of our failures in Nepal was, ideally, the interim government would have addressed all of the structural problems that we were facing, but we saw very quickly that they were looking for inertia. They had to go into this role of peace building. They needed to calm the people down. They could not take risks at all when they should have been ideally the best position to take risks. So, yeah, plan a lot. Try to find resources. What I have learned in the process is that there's a lot of people who are willing to help us. I just don't know how to reach out to them without, a huge event taking place, like the September movement. But yes, just organizing global solidarity with all of these movements. Bangladesh was quite helpful because they actually gave us their notes and about political co-optation, why they have an extremist government in place. We have like a 50-paged document that they shared with us. Yeah, just power to everyone, I guess.
That's really great. Thank you. And I want to hear more about that document. Dipin, go ahead.
My answer to the first question would be I don't think they thought anything. I think I don't have any formal responses by social media giants, but I think they didn't think it was a serious issue. Once we had a lady president, and she was slandered once on social media, and we're a little conservative in these cases, and people complained to Facebook that she was being abused, and Facebook said, that's it, that our president gets trolled all the time. And I don't think I think they took the same attitude to the Gen Z protests and problems and thought this was just another day. Regarding the neighbor question, I think you cannot change your neighbor. So our neighbors, especially when they are superpowers, they have given so much to us. Most of the hate that was generated against them, I think, was again paid for by old party to their cadres. Now I think we should stop trying to pick them. I think we should try to find good bilateral channels. I think that's the only way we solve the neighbor problem. I don't think we can afford to fight. We can only afford to cooperate, I think. Thanks.
And last but not least, Salina, you have the last word.
Yeah, and I don't have much to say because I learned really a lot from Monisha, and I don't have much to say on this. All I can say about international relations is that after every new government, everyone here, like the layperson, are talking, will the government be pro-China or pro-USA? I can say this, but I don't know um, I'm not an international relationship expert, so I don't know much about it, and I don't have much to contribute on this particular topic.
All righty. Well, we only have a couple more minutes, so I'm gonna say that we've crushed it, and I want to thank everybody who participated today. It's been really illuminating, learning from you and your perspectives, not just today, but we've been in dialogue over the recent past. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for endowing Notre Dame with your insights. And thank you once again to the Liu Institute for organizing this today, and to the Democracy Initiative at Notre Dame for funding the research that I and others are involved in on this particular issue. So thanks very much to the audience for listening, and keep watching Nepal. It's a really interesting place.